Good evening. Welcome to the September 9th Washington County Finance and Budget Committee meeting, now called to order. J.P. Pond has agreed to do prayer and pledge tonight. You'll key your mic, J.P. Pond.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for the privilege, the opportunity to come to this place and do business for the county, and it's all on account of you. You have provided this privilege for us. We pray that we'd mind you in the decisions and the choices we make here, what we say and what we do. We pray that we'd mind you, and then that way we'd be fair to the people we serve. Just thank you so much. All in the name of Jesus, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, J.P. Pond. Adoption of the agenda. Any changes to the agenda tonight? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. A motion by J.P. Dean, a second by J.P. Dennis. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The agenda is adopted. Item 4 is the Treasurer Report. Treasurer Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Court. 2/3 of the year already gone. 4.1, Treasurer's Financial Summary. First one, 1,000 general. Again, summer months aren't good for revenue. 3.7 expenses, 1.7 revenues for the general fund. But I look back at August 31st of 2024, and we're $1 million better as far as the ending balance goes, so that's good news. 2000 road fund expenses were also over revenues. 3017 jail revenues and expenses were about the same, around $2 million. End of this report, we began the month with $92.2 million in the bank and ended with $87.4 million. 4.2, the ARPA report. We spent about $465,000 for the COVID mitigation project and about $300,000 for the EOC construction. And at the end of the month, we had $7.1 million remaining in that account. 4.3, the county general property taxes. We received $527,000 in August, and it was $478,000 last year at this same time. And for the year, we're 9.1% ahead of last year. 4.4, the 1 cent sales tax. Got in $968,000. That was a 4.5% increase over the same period last year, and for the year, we're about 5.5% better than 2024. Finally, 4.5, the quarter-cent jail tax, almost 1.5 million came in. That's a little over 5.5% better than last year at this time. And as far as money goes, they've brought in $700,000 more than it did in 2024 through this point. That's all I have.
Any questions for Treasurer Hill? J.P. Ecke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Going back to 4.2, the ARPA funds.
Yes, ma'am.
We have a ending balance of $7,149,390.12. Must be spent by the end of the year. That money is already.
Almost all of it's earmarked
Okay.
for some project. As far as what it will be at the end of the year, I really don't know.
Do you anticipate any Do you know what the earmarks total are?
Almost all of that,
Almost all of it?
all the money's been obligated.
Okay, so we're
certain
not gonna be
things, so-
returning anything?
That remains to be seen. That
Okay.
won't be until the end of next year when, you have to have it all spent by the end of next year.
Right.
You have to send it back. But
Right,
I would think we probably have three to 5 million left at the end of this year to spend next year. But again, that just depends on when we get the invoices in.
so that does matter when you get your invoices in?
I mean, as long as they're in before the end of 2026.
Okay, all righty, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Treasurer Hill? Thank you, Treasurer Hill.
Thank you.
Item 5, Employee Insurance Report, Mr. Angel.
Good evening. I'm on sheet a little bit here. They tried to make it bigger print, but not quite big enough for me. So as you guys can see from the cash flow report, we had a very large claims month. The majority of that driven by medical claims as opposed to drugs. We were just over $1 million in medical claims. That is the first time we've ever hit $1 million in medical claims. Over 50% of that was driven by one claim in particular. It's an unfortunate situation, but unfortunately in our world, that does happen sometimes. The pharmaceutical claims were high, but not too much over what we're used to at $379,000. So where that put us for the month was a total expenditure of $1.478 million. Again, the largest single month expenditure we've ever had. But the good news is we pay for aggregate and specific stop loss. And last year, we thought that was going to kind of bail us out a little more than it did. It did not. This year, that is going to bail us out. So of that 1.4 some odd million that we paid there, we got notification late Friday afternoon that the specific stop loss was going to be paid on that large claimant for $529,000. So next month, I hope to have something in the rebate form here of $529,000. It's still a high-cost month, but that's the reason we pay for that insurance, right? We're partially self-funded, not fully self-funded. And I'll point out that our reinsurance cost, you'll see right there in the middle, we've paid about $233,000 thus far in reinsurance premiums. That number should be, and it varies a little bit depending on how many we have enrolled in the plan each month, right? But that number is going to come out to be right at $400,000 at the end of the year. So if this is the only reinsurance check we get, we're plus $130,000 on the insurance company this year. So frustration last year, we paid that premium, didn't really get bailed out. This year, it's going to flip. It's going to go the other direction, guaranteed. Plus, this person is continuing to have treatments, and they've already hit that specific deductible, so all treatments that this one person has will continue to be refunded for the rest of the year until January 1st.
Any questions for Mr. Angel? J.P. Ecke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Angel. Because I was asked, and I don't know the answer, what is the average premium cost or insurance cost for one of our county employees, just on average?
For employee-only premium, it is more expensive if they have
Employee
family.
only, and then one for family and 2 children. Let's
Okay.
just say something like that.
So I can get you exact numbers. I'd be glad to email that out to the group. But employee only, I believe we're talking about around $50 a month is what the employees contribute. I think it's $27 a paycheck. Please don't quote me on that, but I believe that number is fairly accurate. Now, family coverage is quite a bit more expensive. Excuse me. The employees probably pay, and I do not know the family only portion, but they probably pay $600 a month towards
Okay.
that. I mean, it gets fairly expensive when dependent coverage comes in. Of course, family is employee, spouse, and all children.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, ma'am. And I will get you the exact numbers.
Okay, I was asked,
Sure.
and I didn't have that information,
Yes, ma'am.
and they were just wanting to know.
Yep. We will get you exact numbers, and I may be off. I'm giving rough estimates there. The county covers the majority of this, right? So if we're talking about employees pay, whether it's $50 or $60 a month, it's, they do have a little skin in the game, but again, the lion's share of that is paid by employer dollars by the county.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for Mr. Angel? Thank you, Mr. Angel.
Have a great night.
Item 8 is the comptroller's report.
I'll expand on that question a little bit. Just, the county covers $832 a month per person that takes health insurance. So when somebody takes health insurance, it basically costs us almost $10,000 a year, in addition to what the premiums they pay. So, which is pretty significant. So, what's the first report here? The first report is just a statement of operations. We're 66% through the year. Nothing sticks out to me. Of course, the employee health insurance fund is 71%. I'm watching that fund right now. They don't pay any of the invoices until I approve them because it's relatively low right now until we get that stop-loss check back. So once we get that back, we'll be back up around $700,000-800,000 in that account. So. Is there any questions on that? This particular statement? Next is the unappropriated reserve balance. And basically, all that does is cover what you guys appropriated last month. And the only thing that we did last month was $33,000. It was a refund for IT. We put it back in their budget. But accounting-wise, we put it in the fund, but then you have to appropriate the money, so that's what we did. And year-to-date, you see that we've added $3.2 million, basically, in ordinances as we've gone. So that's a little bit lower than last year. Our unappropriated reserve right now in County General is $2.4 million, $2.5 million, so that's pretty good going into the last 4 months. Is there any questions on that before I get into general talking paper that I handed out to everybody? And this is basically to kick off budget season. There's 5 departments briefing tonight, but I just want to give a general overview. If you look there, revenue, of course, Treasurer Hill just briefed that most revenue is up, but I do want to address property tax a little bit. It's up by $882,000 or 9.1%. But I want to point out, like, our tax rate is low compared to most counties. So for the County General, we're 4.3. The legal limit is 5. So when you array all the counties, we're 43rd. So in most 7-class counties and 6-class counties are charging 5, 4.8, things like that. Road millage, you can charge legally 3. We charge 1, and when you array the counties, we're tied for 63rd in that. Most all county, I think 36 counties charge 3, and then it varies from there. But most everybody's above that. Now, I'm not advocating changing the tax rate. The only reason I say that is because we're in a sound financial position, and we're keeping our tax rate low versus most counties. So I just like to throw that out there, that I think that we're doing a good job. So take it for what it's worth. Is there any questions on that, about the millage? Okay. One thing, too, about the road millage, we split road millage with cities. Fayetteville gets 80%, we get 20% because they have the majority of the, road maintenance. It's different for each little town, but a lot of them are 50-50. Springdale's probably a little bit higher. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but that's basically how the millages work. You see there the other 1-cent sales tax is up $390,000, and then the jail tax is up $701,000. So if you get into the overall budget, I threw out the 24, 25, and 26 numbers for us. So in 2024, we appropriated, or you guys appropriated, $114 million. Then when we jumped to 25, we did $127 million, but that is a little bit inflated because we had the money from the revenue replacement. That was set aside from previous years. So when it came time where we have to spend that money, most of that money is going towards COVID mitigation. So we allocated it this particular year. So if I take that out of there, I take that 10 million out of there, the increase, and I think you guys might remember that I did that last year and explained it. It was 117 million, and that would be a 2.5 adjusted increase. So is there any questions on that? Like, because
JP Ecke?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to go back to a statement that you made that we rank 43rd and 63rd in ranking as far as what we charge for taxes. Specifically, the courts before did that, not wanting to raise taxes on the citizens of Washington County, because when Benton County is in dire straits for revenue, they can't go anywhere because they've already are maxed out at 5%. They're maxed out on all of their taxes, as are other counties. We decided we didn't want to do that and that we were going to hold taxes down. And I just want to say, for those that have been on the courts before I was here and then the years that we were here, we did that purposefully to keep taxes low in Washington County, because we don't like it when our taxes go up. And if we can operate within our budget, we're going to do that. So thank you for pointing that out and being a good steward and good comptroller of how we're spending our money. So
well, I
thank
appreciate
you.
that. Well, and the other thing on top of that is I would say we have 14 million in what I call savings account, so in reserves. So I don't think there's a whole lot of counties that actually have that kind of reserve. So then when we jump forward to 2026, this year, right now the request is 128 million, but we have not spent, there's still 7.6 million of that revenue replacement in the fund. I'm just guessing that maybe 600,000 will be spent by the end of the year, but then that money is going to be appropriated, whatever the balance is, roll over towards COVID mitigation. And I would expect that it be gone by the end of 2026, along with all the ARPA money that's allowed to be spent. So if you adjust there, you take that 7 million out, it's 121 million, so it's adjusted increase of about 3.3%, which I think is pretty good, with the growth of Washington County and also the growth of our tax dollars. So I think we're looking good there. Is there any questions on the overall budget? So then on county general, that's really what we have control over, because a lot of those other funds, like there's some grant money in there that rolls over that's in the budget. The employee insurance account really inflates the budget a little bit because it's really appropriated in the departments, and then it flows to the employee insurance account. But then we have to appropriate it again so we can spend it. In the future, we might break that account, keep it on the budget, but break it out from the budget, just because it's really almost like a double appropriation, because the departments appropriate it, and then when we do payroll, it flows to the insurance account, and then when we pay bills, we pay it out of there. So the county general, the 2024 was 53 million. The one thing about that, and you see that it dropped to 52 million the next year, or right around 53 million. But 24 was kind of inflated because of the roof claim. I wasn't around for that, but I think it was about 5 million that was put in there and appropriated immediately to start fixing the roofs. And then 2.6 million of that, I think, rolled over into the next year. So, and then it was also an election year. One reason I put that in there, when you see the budget go down, any year that's an election year adds almost $1 million to the deal. I think this year it's about 900,000 is the request, because the election commission has to kick in and do their thing. So then next year, the election commission will probably be down, the following year will be down by 900,000. So just just keep that in mind when you see the budget decrease a little bit. So then going forward to the 2026 appropriation, we got 56 million, which would be a 6.4% increase. The two big ones there, of course, are election, and then the sheriff, who you're going to hear from tonight, has a $1 million increase. And they'll describe all that to you. So is there any questions on the overall budget before we get into briefs? I'm not sure who's up first. I think the prosecuting.
County prosecutor's up first. Any other questions? Thank you, Comptroller Sherman.
Mr. Chair, may I proceed?
Yes, go ahead, please. Sorry.
All right. Good evening, Justices. I appreciate you having me here tonight. I'm going to do my best to follow along here. I'll be looking over my right shoulder quite a bit. I think IT comes up after me. If they don't have a monitor for in front of the podium as part of their budget, ask them to include it before they're done, please. So I took office in January of this year and had never had a historical context of Washington County. I wasn't a deputy prosecutor here. I'd not worked in this court system. I'd been a prosecutor in Northwest Arkansas for 20 years. My state experience was from Benton County. So I didn't have a good feeling over historical budgets. So I went back and looked at the last 5 years' budgets in preparing this tonight. One thing that became apparent to me within the first 30 days of being the prosecutor and in visiting with my predecessor, he kind of reiterated this to me, is how much faster the court system was going to move in 2025 versus previous years. As you're all aware, there was a large backlog. I've been trying to keep the quorum court and the public at large kind of updated on the progress we're making with that backlog. But it became very apparent to me in the first 30 days or so that the budget for this year was going to be very, very tight throughout the entire year. Judge Durrett made best guesses as we could in the budget, which is essentially what I'm doing for the 2026 year as well, but with the context of this year. But in that first 30 days, for 60 days certainly, it became apparent to me that I was going to have to make some cuts right out of the gate to be able to get through 2025 at the rate the court system was moving in. So as a result of that, I made a number of cuts right out of the gate. The first thing, and I've listed them here, I was able to save several $1,000s a month by instituting a file storage and destruction policy. There was not one in this office. We were sending massive amounts of boxed files to VRC for their storage and paying rental on that because our destruction policy was keep everything forever. I've instituted a policy where that bill was cut drastically. I noticed immediately that there were printers on every desk in the prosecutor's office, and much to the chagrin of the folks in that office, I took away their printers. And now we all use common printers. We were using an outdated library system where a lot of paper periodicals were being sent to us on a regular basis that I were finding still in the cellophane, from even years past. That was money just thrown away. But and then there were some other miscellaneous cuts that we made, such as hotel rooms, cable television, things like that are going to get us through this calendar year. Looking at the 2026 budget.
May I turn your mic so that way people hear what you're saying?
Certainly. Looking at the 2026 budget, I'm going to kind of divide it into two areas. The salary part of the budget and then what I call the operations part of the budget. So supplies and operations, supplies, services, charges. Looking at the salary budget for this year, we are proposing an 8.1% increase. And the value that comes with that 8.1%, there's actually a lot there for just an 8.1% increase. As I understand the human resources plan here in Washington County, is they look at all of the grades of every employee, about a third of the county workforce every year. That's my understanding. Several of the areas they looked at in that third they look at for the entire workforce were in my office. Specifically, they were with staff positions. That 8.1% makes some grade changes for paralegals, the office administration, and a position we call the restitution coordinator in the office. Human Resources, in looking at the overall job descriptions of the county, made a finding that those 3 jobs were undergraded. Particularly as it relates to paralegals, we have 1 grade of paralegal. County HR has recommended it be split into 3 grades, a paralegal 1, 2, and 3, so those people can be tiered based upon their experience. I don't know that we have a paralegal 3 within the confines of our office right now, but we certainly have some 1s and 2s. It regrades these 2 positions, those being our office administrator, it's what it's called. I think it'll also be called the chief of staff. It regrades that position to make it more consummate with its duties. Same thing with the restitution coordinator. It was the opinion of HR that those 2 positions had outgrown their level, and they've recommended regrades. Another thing that 8.1% does is it properly funds the part-time positions. We have a number of part-time law clerks that frankly were underfunded. I don't know how they came to the numbers they came to in last year's budget, but if you take the number of hours that are allotted for the part-time law clerks and the amount that's budgeted, it will come in under. We're cutting hours so that we don't have a problem with the budget this year, but for next year, the budget proposal includes properly funding the part-time law clerks that we have on staff. It also adds, and this will be the bulk of my presentation tonight, a new position, and it's the position of an investigator for the prosecutor's office staff, and I'll talk about that more in detail. One thing I want to kind of plant a seed for here is in a future budget, another administrative assistant in the prosecutor's office could likely be used. Administrative assistant is in my context, is an entry-level employee. One of the things that a lot of people don't know the prosecutor's office does is we are responsible for all involuntary mental commitments that go through the circuit court. So if somebody's a danger to themselves or a danger to others, a doctor or the jail or somebody off the street can petition for this person to be hospitalized to get treatment. Our office averages about more than 1 of those a day. So far this year, we've averaged 1.1 something of those daily. Getting 1 of those ends the day for a deputy prosecutor. Not just in getting the hearing dealt with, but finding a bed, getting them placed, getting them transported. Logistically, that is a challenge that takes a deputy prosecutor out of their normal duties. I believe that this office could justify a entry-level staff person just to deal with the intake of mental commits and the logistics of mental commits, so a deputy prosecutor would then be able to go handle the hearing and leave the logistics to the staff. That is not part of this proposal, but I'm saying that because it probably will be part of next year's proposal. So let's talk about this investigator. What I have in mind for an investigator is not different than other investigators on prosecutor staffs in the state of Arkansas. I have talked to a number of your brethren about having an investigator on staff, and generally the first question I get is, you guys don't have an investigator on staff, and they're a little surprised by that. Having an investigator on staff would alleviate a lot of responsibilities of law enforcement agencies that I could handle in-house. It would free up some things that the sheriff does, certainly would free up some things that local police departments do, and certainly put them under my control where I can determine when and how something's done. The duties are, I'm going to put the 3 up here that are the 3 big ones. Service of civil process on civil matters and service of subpoenas. Those are 2 things that this office is entirely dependent upon partner law enforcement agencies to do. It's not well known, but the prosecutor's office is involved in a number of civil matters that causes us to serve process. Family in need of services cases are civil in nature. We have to serve the families that are in need of services with a complaint. Asset forfeiture is another one. That is a civil proceeding in which this office is responsible to serve a party with a complaint in a civil lawsuit. Those kind of cases typically aren't tied to a law enforcement agency, so I don't have someone to say, here, go serve this. The sheriff's office does it through their service of process division, but I can tell you on family and needs of services cases, those are intensive and you need to spend time finding the family. The nature of a FINS case is one where the family needs services, they may be a transient and not have an address. Having somebody on my staff to find these people, to serve them, to get them into court, to get services would be critical. And of course, a lot of what we would depend on this investigator to do would be just locating witnesses. The average case takes anywhere between 9 months and 2 years to get to trial, and by the time that happens, a number of things have changed, and we are simultaneously prosecuting about 3,500 cases at once. Having somebody on staff that I can say, drop everything, find this witness, and serve them with this subpoena could be critical in whether we're able to go forward on a case or not. Another thing an investigator would do for this staff is supplement non-CID investigations. And what I mean by that is, let's say a patrol officer with Fayetteville makes an arrest for leaving the scene of a property damage accident. That arrest gets made, it's not ever assigned to a detective at Fayetteville. The case essentially ends at Fayetteville Police Department. But in prosecuting it, we decide, you know what, we need to get our hands on some videotape from the area. With it not being assigned to a detective in Fayetteville, I essentially have to go beg for help. If I had an in-house investigator, I could task them with a subpoena to all of the area businesses to go do this portion of the investigation on behalf of the office without having to task or depend on a partner's goodwill in doing it. A tool that doesn't often get used in Washington County, but I've started its use since I became prosecutor, is something called the prosecutor's subpoena. As you may or may not know, in Arkansas, we do not impanel grand juries to make decisions on charging. The prosecutor, through their constitutional authority, takes the place of the grand jury in deciding when to charge, what to charge, and how to charge it. And a tool they give for this is the ability for the prosecutor to bring witnesses in, put them under oath, and take their statement and decide whether charges should be filed or not filed. It can also be used as a tool for trial preparation, to bring witnesses in, put them under oath, and get their statement under oath. In a situation like that, there needs to be a witness to these proceedings, and that witness would be the investigator. They would be the witness to the prosecutor's subpoena. As the prosecutor, I can't take the stand and say what they said. I'm prosecuting the case. But an investigator certainly could do that, and that would be part of their duties. They likely also would serve as the coordinator for law enforcement training activities. This office provides a lot of law enforcement training. We would use this job to coordinate those and put on training themselves. We have to have a point of contact within our office that is the liaison to NCIC for criminal histories and criminal justice information at the FBI. That would be this person. There are some instances where we may have to rapid deploy some evidence to the crime lab that didn't necessarily get tested by the agency. We decide in prosecuting the case that there are things that need additional testing. I likely would send my investigator to pick up that evidence, take it to the crime lab, so I'm not dependent upon the next run that the law enforcement agency makes. And the thing I list last here is probably the one that I have the most recent example of, and that's the coordination of law enforcement activities in multi-agency cases. And I want to talk about something called imputed knowledge. So as the prosecutor, I am imputed to have the knowledge of every law enforcement agency operating in my jurisdiction. And I'm going to use the Andrew McGann Devil's Den case as an example of this. I am imputed with the knowledge of every law enforcement agency that worked on that case, and there are many. If you saw the gag order that was entered in that case, there's a list of 12 to 14 agencies. I would use this investigator to make certain that we had every single bit of discovery from all of those agencies and would be the liaison between this office and those agencies to coordinate the investigation, to actually have the imputed knowledge. I'm deemed to have the knowledge, but I don't necessarily always have it. This person I would task with having that knowledge, especially in a case like that one. Just for context, about half of the prosecutor's offices in the state have at least one. Benton County represents the most comparable prosecutor's office in Arkansas to this one in terms of staff size and case flow size, number of cases prosecuted by the criminal courts. They're the most similar to this county. They have 2 investigators. We then are the largest prosecutor's office in the state without investigative staff. We're the second largest prosecutor's office in the state. We are a distant second behind Little Rock. You know, Pulaski and Logan counties have an investigative staff of like 10. You know, they have their own little police agency. You know, Benton County's third, they have 2. I'm asking for a single one. This position, in addition to the salary that it will command, which is about $65,000 is the base salary, we have graded that similar to a detective out at the sheriff's office and CID. It is not as much as Benton County pays their investigators, but it's comparable with what we do with detectives that already work for the county. There will be some ancillary expenses that relate to vehicle operation, training, equipment. That's about $6,000 of this proposal. They will need a car. I am not asking for the quorum court to purchase that car. I have an account that is full of seized drug funds. The purchase of a vehicle for an investigator's use is a valid use of that fund. So my office would front the bill for the vehicle that this investigator would have to drive to do these activities. That's essentially where we're at with an investigator. I think it is a tool that this office certainly could use. I was surprised when I got here and there wasn't one. Folks ask me, what's the kind of person you're looking for an investigator? Essentially, I'm looking for a retired law enforcement officer that knows Washington County like the back of his or her hand, is what I'm looking for. That's what I need here. That would be a very, very useful tool to the office, and it would free up law enforcement resources that this office is using from some of our partner agencies. I want to transition in my briefing here into the impact to the operations side of the budget and the impact that the accelerated docket has had on our 2025 budget. And I want to give you some context. So for context, in 2024, this office closed 3,420 felony cases. In 2025, the office closed 3,815 felony cases. That's just new felony prosecutions. That's not mental commits, that's not misdemeanors, that's not juvenile prosecutions, that's not FINS cases, that's not revocations of probations. You know, that's just the new felony. So that's a lot of what we do, but not all of it. This year, I checked today, we've closed 3,230 cases. Before this month is over with, we will eclipse what we did in 2024. I think before next month's over with, we will eclipse what we did in 2025. If we follow current trends, we will close 4,500 cases or so this year. Part of that is backlog, but part of that is the accelerated docket that we're running through now. We have conducted to date 14 felony trials. I think before the year's over with, we'll have conducted around 20, give or take, 1 or 2 each direction. That's a lot of felony trials in a calendar year. And what I want to demonstrate for you here in a second is the new accelerated system and the way the courts are running their docket, which is working, frankly, to clear cases at an acceptable rate, means that multiple cases need to be set for trial at any given time, and you have to be ready for all of them, even though you may only have 1 trial. And if you're not prosecuting or defending cases in the circuit court, I want to turn this into a demonstration for you so that you get a feel for what I'm talking about here. So let's pretend today, September 9th, we have 4 cases set for trial. You know, state versus defendant 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 separate cases, 4 separate felony crimes. That is what a normal trial docket in Washington County in either one of the criminal courts looks like, except for most of the time it's not just 4 defendants. Most of the time it's close to 20. We've had more than 25 at times that are set. You're not going to obviously try 25 cases in a 1 or 2 day long period. So here's a couple of different scenarios to demonstrate it for you. Let's pretend that defendant number 1 pleads guilty, defendant number 2 pleads guilty, defendant number 3 pleads guilty. That means defendant number 4, we are trying today, September 9th, or starting tomorrow, September 10th. Meaning in the weeks and months leading up to today, we've needed to have all 4 of those cases ready for trial, not knowing how any one of them would resolve. A similar scenario, and keep in mind it may be that defendant 1 and 2 plead guilty, 3 does not, and 4 does not. 3 is a 2-day trial, and then 2 days after that's over with, you're trying number 4 if it's a 2-day trial. Length of trial depends on this as well. Another scenario that I've worked out for you here is September 9th, defendant number 1 exercises their right to a jury trial. We have to be ready and try that case. September 11th, we'll move defendant number 2 to that date, meaning we need to be ready for a trial a few days later. And then defendants 3 and 4, we may move a week or so beyond that to September 18th. In that case, we are continuing to have 2 or 3 cases ready for trial on any given time, even though some of those may end in the end with a defendant deciding to change their plea guilty. But the point I'm trying to make here is in any of these scenarios, we are in a position a lot of the time where maybe not with all 25 of the cases, but maybe with the first 5 or 6 on the list, we need to be ready for trial at any given time and continue to be ready for trial. I point this out, that the 2 courts run a very similar system, but Division 5, Judge Bryan, she sets all of her cases after arraignment for trial within 90 to 100 days, so it's a much faster system yet for 25% of our caseload. It is certainly an accelerated docket, which is part of the reason we're able to tread water and to this point eliminate a lot of the backlog we've seen. So for comparative basis, in 2025, our operations, meaning non-salary budget, so the things that are listed as supplies and other services and charges, total was about $210,780. I hope that I come in just under that, and if we don't have another large trial prop up, we ought to be just fine. I am asking for the 2026 operations budget to be increased to $254,550. So that's an increase of about 21%. It's $43,770. Half of this amount, about $22,000 of it, is associated with contract increases that we're obligated to pay, and I'll go through some of those in a moment, and the costs associated with that addition of an investigator, fuel, tires and oil, things like that. The other half, the other $22,000 or so, are proposed increases I've made here to keep up with the litigation costs. Now, for context, I look at Benton County's budget as well. This is great value here in that we are still going to spend about $250,000 less than what Benton County is spending to run a similar system 1 county to the north. We make better use of our dollars here, which is, I hope, why we can keep our taxes low, as Justice Zecchi pointed out earlier. So fixed contractual cost. Of that increase, about $15,900 of it is fixed costs. And by that I mean our copy machine contract came up and we changed it to another set of machines. We had to replace the machines and that cost increased. We added, as you recall, cellular telephones to the county budget. You know, I could no longer fund that through hot checks through this year, so this adds cellular telephone service to the budget. There was a contract executed in 2022 through Carpel, which is our case management software provider. They also provide digital storage that provided some limits that if we exceeded those limits on digital storage, we would start to be charged per terabyte of digital storage. And last year, they do that from April to April. Last year in April, that clause of the contract kicked in where we were billed for it this last April. This budget's for the increased digital storage costs that are associated with our case management contract. The investigator associated costs, as I've mentioned before, are about $6,000 of that. So the additional $22,000 that isn't fixed costs for contracts or associated with an investigator are legitimate increases that I'm asking for to keep up with our accelerated docket. They are all litigation-related expenses or training expenses that would essentially go to that litigation. I wanted to break this down as a summary for you all. If you look at those numbers, we are closing nearly 1/3 more cases in a calendar year, and I'm asking for an increase of about 1/5 in the budget. So, you know, the workload's gone up by 1/3. I'm only asking for about 1/5 more money, and that includes costs that are associated with a new employee. This year, we budgeted for about 3,500 cases over the course of the year and about 1 trial a month. And like I've said a couple times throughout this presentation, our belt's going to be really, really tight for the rest of this year. If we have any case of any size pop up where we need to hire an expert witness or we need to fly in witnesses from somewhere outside the lower 48 United States or maybe even within the lower 48 United States, if it's someplace expensive like Seattle, we're going to need to try that case next year with the state of our budget this year. There are certain categories, and I know 2 of them Our individual, that's 3,009 other professional services and 3,092 jurors and witnesses. That's most of where that $22,000 is at that I'm asking for, and those are strictly litigation costs. Other professional services includes things like if I need to have a translation of a confession made from another language to English for presentation to the jury. That is not cheap. We spent about $2,000 on one of those just last month for a trial that will occur later this fall. Witness travel, jurors and witnesses, that category largely deals with witness travel and witness expenses to have folks here for trial. Both of those categories, if you look at my individual budget, we're likely under budgeted for this year because I'm right at the, in fact, I'm over the limit on one of them and right at the limit on another one, but we've made enough cuts in other areas that I think we'll be able to move money around to make this year work. Overall, if you look at the entire budget increase, overall budget increase that I'm seeking in this year, salaries and operations chart changes 9.28%. So it's a less than 10% increase across the board that I'm asking to add employees, add an employee, bring other employees up to a proper grade as HR sees it, and get operation costs as such that we can have some breathing room this coming year. That is the end of my brief. I am willing and I hope able to answer any questions that any of the justices may have.
Thank you, sir. I have a question. Maybe Comptroller Sherman, is there an updated budget of his? Because his numbers, his 8.1% increase in personnel is different than the budget I have, which says 3.19%.
In the last week or so, because of those regrades,
And that's fine.
that's it. There's been some adjustments made to the personnel.
There's been some
side of it.
adjustments, so there's some differences in the numbers, and the new one will be coming out. But that's all I want to make sure I was aware of. Thank you. Okay, so appreciate the detail, and I think a lot of that was in your package. Really appreciate that you putting that in the package. We could review that beforehand and be prepared. All that's great. The one thing I wanted to make sure we had a discussion about is there's a number of your resources that really are supposed to be on the state budget, but we have some of them on the Washington County budget.
Can we put my presentation back up, please? I say, can you? I'm gonna, so that one's not okay. Well, my suspicion is you're asking about some deputy prosecutors that are on the in the county budget.
Correct. That the state normally should be paying for, and they pay for the rest of them. I think there's only a portion of them, if I remember correctly.
So, I actually anticipated this question, so I'm trying to get to the end of this presentation. I have 3 deputy prosecutors that Washington County pays for. They account for 16.8% of this last year's budget. So 3 deputy prosecutors at a cost of about $348,000 is 16.8% of this calendar year's budget. You've classified it as they're supposed to be paid for by the state, and I believe that was true in 1999. It is not true today, and I'll tell you the law as I understand it.
Thank you.
Before 1999, all deputy prosecutors were paid by the county that they represented or the judicial district they represented. And in 1999, that legislative session, as I understand the law, they made all deputy prosecutors state employees instead of being county employees. There was part of the negotiation for the passage of that law was an agreement between the Arkansas Association of Counties and the legislature that there would be a reimbursement for the number of deputy prosecutors that were funded at that time for as long as that deputy prosecutor stayed on the books in $1999. There are not many of these deputy prosecutors left working or these positions left in the state, but we have one, in Washington County. That first one listed there that's the highest paid of all of them is a grandfathered in state reimbursable deputy prosecutor position, but it's reimbursed in $1999, so it is not near the salary that is paid now. Anything that comes after 1999 is at the pleasure of the quorum court, and I understand historically, 2 positions were added in 2019 because there was a fear of the growing backlog and the overcrowding at the jail, and adding a couple of deputy prosecutors and adding a couple of public defenders was what was going to combat this, and then COVID happened, so we never found out if it worked or not, frankly, which gives us 3 deputy prosecutors now. I would say two of which are fully paid for by Washington County, one of which is Washington County probably pays 7/8 of it. I don't have the exact dollar in front of me, but they pay the lion's share of that deputy prosecutor. And in answering this question, really all I can do is tell you what they do, the impact they have on the office, the impact that will be had on the office if those 3 were not in the office anymore, and any plan I could have to try to make them state employees. So if you'll let me walk you through those things, and I'll answer any questions you have along the way. So this is the structure of my office. It's about 50 deputy prosecutors, or 50 employees total. The left side of the chart is the one I want you to look at for purposes of this. The 3 names that are in red, those are the county-funded positions. And you can see I have one of those that works in Judge Bryan's court, Division 5, prosecuting felony cases. I have 1 deputy prosecutor that does the family in need of services cases. And I have 1 deputy prosecutor that prosecutes cases in our juvenile division. So those are where the 3 deputy prosecutors are that prosecute, that are paid for by the county. The breakdown of the office is, we have 20 DPAs. 17 of them are paid for by the state, 3 of them are paid for by the county. 14 of those DPAs prosecute felony cases. You know, the 4,500 cases we're going to close this year, that's handled by largely 14 prosecutors in Divisions 7 and 5. Division 7 handles 75% of the docket, so they have more prosecutors than Division 5. So 9 in Division 7, 5 in Division 5. That includes the supervisors for each of those divisions as well. We have 1 deputy prosecutor that manages like drug court, veterans court, mental health court, specialty courts. We have 1 deputy prosecutor, this is a county-funded one, that handles FINS matters, 2 that prosecute the juvenile matters, 1 that prosecutes misdemeanors, and 1 chief deputy that oversees all operations. So that's the breakdown of this office. There are a couple different scenarios I want to present to you that what would occur or how I would have to restructure and the impact that would have if these 3 were eliminated. I'm not. All right, so we're looking at that same chart now at this point. And you can see I've made 3 of the positions vacant. You know, we have lost a prosecutor in FINS, we've lost a prosecutor in the juvenile division, we've lost a prosecutor in Division 5. The one in FINS and the one in juvenile are the ones that are important for this scenario, and here's why. This office has to handle FINS cases. It's part of our duties that are prescribed by the Constitution. You know, we are the petitioner for family in need of services cases. There has to be a deputy prosecutor that handles those kinds of cases. Someone will have to be in that position. We have 2 juvenile courts here. One that Judge Warren handles and one that now Judge Egan handles. There has to be a deputy prosecutor in each of those courts because they don't coordinate their schedules with each other. I couldn't have a single deputy prosecutor handling both of those courts because they can't be in 2 places at once. So there will need to be a deputy prosecutor in each juvenile court. The one in Division 5 is a little bit different, you know, but those 2 positions must be occupied by deputy prosecutors. So, looking at the left side here, let's say that I take 3 deputy prosecutors and fill those positions. Well, they'd all have to come from Division 7. You know, all 3 of them would come from Judge Taylor's court, Division 7. And instead of having 9 deputy prosecutors, she'd have 6, you know. And keep in mind, Judge Taylor's criminal court is the busiest criminal court in the entire state of Arkansas right now. That is the busiest court criminally in the entire state of Arkansas. A deputy prosecutor's caseload is about 250 criminal cases. That is the number that the National Association of District Attorneys says is about the right number that a deputy prosecutor can handle in any given day, week, or year at once. You know, that's the number that somebody can comfortably juggle, is about 250 cases. So if I eliminate 3 deputy prosecutors from Division 7, I've displaced 750 criminal cases. That is about 28% of the caseload of Division 7. So we've taken more than 25% of Judge Taylor's caseload and displaced it. That is going to have an obvious effect on the speed at which we're able to move cases through Division 7. That doesn't have to be the only scenario, though. There are other ways that I can fill these positions, but keeping in mind, 2 of them have to be filled. The FINS position and the juvenile position have to be filled. So really then the alternative becomes taking a Division 7 prosecutor and putting them in FINS, taking a Division 7 prosecutor and putting them in the juvenile division. And because I've lost my Division 5 prosecutor, probably because Division 7 is so busy, we're going to move somebody or leave somebody in Division 7. So we'll take 2 out of Division 7, 1 out of Division 5 to fill these 3 positions. We're still moving about 750 felony cases. It's just that 500 of them are coming from one court and 250 are coming from the other court. So if you move 500 cases from Division 7, you're reducing their case flow by about 20%. If you remove 250 cases from Division 5, you're reducing the case flow in that court by about 28%. So instead of displacing 28% of the docket in one court, now I'm displacing 20% in one court and 28% in another court, which I think will be even more inefficient. So it seems to me the best scenario, if we were to eliminate these 3, would be to take them all from Division 7. I think it's going to have a very, very detrimental effect on the speed at which justice is administered. That said, there can be a plan to replace these with state employees, but it's not fast. You know, every 2 years the legislature meets. Every 2 years, part of the prosecutor coordinator's office's legislative package is to ask for new positions. You know, every legislative session there are generally some new positions awarded to prosecutors' offices. I have never seen a prosecutor's office be awarded more than 1 in any given legislative session. They may get 7 or 8 for the entire state at once. And we're not the only area in the state with growth. Certainly I can ask for deputy prosecutors to be paid for on the state dime. Likely that would be a better alternative because frankly those positions pay better now. With the governor's new pay plan that was passed through this last legislative session, state deputy prosecutors are actually paid at a higher rate than we're paying the county ones at this point. It's marginal more, but it's more. We'll have that chance again in 2027. Of course, I won't be your prosecutor at that point. Somebody else, you know, either Dennis Dean or Lisa Parks who are running for that position will have this post. But I certainly will be part of the preparation for the legislative session leading up to that. I certainly will ask for 3 deputy prosecutors. I don't think we'll get them. You know, I think most likely we will at best get 1. I think 2 years later we can maybe get another one. And I think 2 years after that we can likely get another one. Okay. That probably replaces the 3, but it's taken a 6-year period of time. Keep in mind, during that same 6 years, Washington County is going to continue to grow, and with the growth, we're going to have more criminal cases, and we will stunt our growth, and at some point be in a position where we'll need more deputy prosecutors from the state anyway. So to some degree, we may be shooting ourselves in the foot, but over a 10-year plan or so, we can dial back county prosecutors, dial in state prosecutors, hopefully at a rate where we can keep up with the speed at which the wheel of justice turns, but that will take much longer than the time you have me here. I've got another 15 months here, and all I can do is propose and let you know that the effect it would have is detrimental on the wheel of justice if we were to eliminate them. That was a long answer for a short question.
No, well, I appreciate the information. It's really what we're looking for, is that they understand it better, and appreciate the information you provide. J.P. Bruns?
Chair, it appears that by looking at if we took these three away, it would just totally backlog the court system, the jail pile up again that we're trying to figure out ways to get rid of, and it would just further backlog us and pile us up. Is that true?
Generally speaking, yes. I mean, I know the sheriff's been updating you all on jail population. I get regular updates on the jail population from the sheriff as well, too. I listened to the most recent one, which I think was last week, that if the state would come and get their inmates, we'd probably have a surplus of beds. That surplus of beds plus some, if we were to eliminate these deputy prosecutors in one full swoop, we'd have people sleep on the floor immediately. We are in a position now, and I'm not the best person to answer this, but we are treading water to some degree, and we have reduced our backlog of cases by a lot, and we've reduced the amount of people that are sleeping on the floor by a lot. Those numbers will certainly all increase to probably height of COVID levels if we were to, in one fell swoop, eliminate 3 deputy prosecutors. And with the growth that continues to come, we'll be behind the 8 ball for a while if we took them out in one fell swoop.
Just sounds to me like we'd be taking the Band-Aid off and causing a problem.
You'd need a bigger Band-Aid.
Thank you.
Any other questions, prosecuting attorney? Thank you, sir. Appreciate all the information.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, he snuck in. JP Massengale, thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the information and the detailed analysis that you've done on all this. You mentioned that we would probably end up needing an entry-level position for mental commits.
I mean, I could justify that now, but I didn't want to. I thought I was asking for a lot, so I didn't want to ask for too much. But yes, an entry-level position to handle the intake of mental commitments, people off the street, being a liaison to the like this ERISA Health and Northwest that are frequent customers, frankly, for mental commits. Somebody to field those phone calls and dispatch those cases likely would relieve a lot of duties from deputy prosecutors that could get back to prosecuting felony cases, prosecuting misdemeanor cases, rather than calling places asking for a bed. So for a future budget or this budget, if this quorum court sees fit, I didn't make it part of this proposal, but that absolutely could be used in this office.
Okay, how much would that be?
An entry level, hang on, I have that. Bear with me here a second. This would be a level 5 or 6. The salary for that would be no more than $40,000 plus whatever benefits, are added on top of that. So, but the base salary would be a level 5 or 6 is in the $40,000 range, depending on where exactly we are on the chart. So.
Okay. And one other quick question: how many cell phones is that? You've got, I think, $6,000 in there. I'm just curious, how many?
I'd say it's approximately 20 cell phones. Not every deputy prosecutor, not every member of the staff has a cell phone, but most deputy prosecutors do, and some of our key employees, like victim witness coordinators, also use cell phones in the office. We actually, at this point, I know it's coming out of the quorum court's budget now instead of my hot check fund, but switching to the county's Verizon plan saved hundreds of dollars a month. The office was using AT&T, and before I brought the cell phones into the county budget, I switched to the lower cost carrier to save money, and it saved quite a bit of money.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice.
JP Coger?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you for your presentation. It was great. I'd just like to say that I think it would be a huge mistake to remove those 3 deputy prosecutors. But also I want to mention that when we're talking about money, it costs money to house people in the Washington County Jail too. And that hasn't been mentioned. The last time, I don't remember the exact figure from the Arkansas Association of Counties or from the state auditor, but it's published on the AOC website. It's either, the sheriff can tell me for sure, it was $80 or $85 a day. And that was a couple of years ago, so I think it's safe to say it's gone up. So when we think about the cost, we need to think about that too. Not just the money, but also human misery and cost setting in jail. But thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you, Justice.
Other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Justices. I appreciate your
Appreciate
time tonight.
Next one is the ID Department. Director Dozer.
Did I really have to follow the prosecutor? Good evening, Justices. Thank you for your time tonight. Over the last few months, I've had the privilege of working closely with Washington County employees, and it's been a rewarding and a busy, very busy start, getting to know the organization, meeting people, and helping deliver quality IT services. I want to take a moment to recognize my IT team. They're smart, they're energetic, and more than anything else, they're deeply committed to making our systems work better, safer, and more reliable for everyone. And when I say safer, I mean protecting our systems from those who try to compromise them. I'll share more about that in just a minute. Tonight, I've been asked to share some insights into our IT priorities and how they shape the 2026 budget. Many of the efforts that we're going to do in 26 are underway, and we've got to continue building on them in the coming year. Over the past year, for example, we've invested in a lot of technology, backups, disaster recovery, so that if something goes wrong, we can get back online and quickly. That work is essential protecting county services. Looking ahead in 2026, we're focusing on 4 key priorities: making systems easier and more efficient. We want county employees to have tools that are simple, fast, and secure, so they can get the information they need quickly without extra hurdles. Simplifying and standardizing. Right now, we use multiple versions of software, and I'll get into the details in that in a minute, which causes confusion and more work. By standardizing, we can reduce problems, strengthen security, and make operations run more smoothly. Number 3, strengthening our cybersecurity. I think everyone's aware that other counties and other organizations in Northwest Arkansas suffered some costly cyber attacks. We are committed to taking proactive steps to protect Washington County's data and reduce those risks. And then 4, preparing for artificial intelligence. AI brings challenges and opportunities. Criminals are using AI to attack systems, but AI offers some real opportunities to improve our services, and we need to be ready for both the risk and benefits and be ready to respond. I've just mentioned the 4 kind of key aspects for this budget proposal is we want to modernize for agility and efficiency and make things easier for our users to get their job done. We're going to standardize for consistency. We're going to secure for resilience and trust, and prepare AI for innovation and growth. Modernize for agility and efficiency. If you're not aware, we are modernizing our data center. We will be placing a lot of equipment in the OC. We're in that process right now. And that equipment will provide redundancy and replication of data. So in the event that something happens here, we can run from the OC. If something happens there, we can run from here. So data will be replicated at both locations. We need to modernize software. This includes improving the user experience. We need to simplify login and access. We need to upgrade to Windows 11 from a security perspective. We're in the process of doing that, and some of our employees have experienced that upgrade. We need to upgrade Office. We're on 3 different versions of Office across the county. There should be one version of Office. It simplifies patching and simplifies cybersecurity and all that. And in Adobe, we have 5 versions that we're currently using. We also need to do some server upgrades because our patching process is getting cumbersome because we're on older versions of the server, Windows Server, and upgrading those will speed things up and reduce the amount of work that we have to do after hours. We need to modernize the circuit court AV. Crestron systems, I believe those are over 10 years old, and there's been a request to upgrade those, and those are in the budget. And we have some ADA compliance issues there. We want to standardize for consistency. Brandon's well aware of this issue. Dell is our standard. One vendor simplifies a lot of things. It simplifies imaging, it simplifies patching, and therefore simplifies and improves our cybersecurity. We want to standardize on how many different options we have. It doesn't make sense to have 17 different flavors of PCs in the environment, right? We should be able to meet everyone's need with either one well-configured desktop and 2 laptops, a lightweight one and a power user, if we can define those. We need to upgrade software. So this is about managing PCs, phones, and MiFi devices. We don't have one central repository, one system with that inventory, and we're going to encrypt all the devices. We're not currently encrypting, we're not encrypting our laptops, we're not encrypting phones. So this is about upgrading that software and developing tighter cybersecurity. And I've already mentioned Office and Adobe. So part 3 is securing for resilience and trust. We want to avoid those cybersecurity incidents that our folks over at City of Fayetteville, Bentonville, or Bella Vista, University of Arkansas. We are in the process of developing a cybersecurity phishing policy, and that will include training for all employees. We'll continue to phish our employees, and if you get phished, we're proposing that you take an additional training. We need to develop an AI policy. I've got some documentation on that. That's in process. Computers, I mentioned, we're upgrading to Windows 10, and we're going to encrypt hard drives and USB drives. Brandon's department is already using their new machines, and those hard drives are encrypted, and the USB drives they purchase are also encrypted. We need to do that across the county. And then I mentioned mobile device management. So the places I've been, there are tools to manage phones, PCs, MiFi devices to make sure that they're not cyber security compromised. And we've got that in the budget. And we will manage those end user devices remotely. To continue on with the security, we have done, I guess we're required to do an external pen test. We completed one, I guess, late fourth quarter of last year. That will get scheduled for us in 2025, and it'll continue every year. But one thing we haven't done is an internal pen test, and we're fully aware that that internal pen test is going to show us some things that we need to improve from a cybersecurity perspective. I've already mentioned this, but we'll continue the monthly phishing, and we're going to require cybersecurity training for all employees. I've got some things listed here related to the Federal Cybersecurity Act of 2025 and the CJIS requirements, which already state that you have to have data encrypted, and obviously we're going to make an effort to have everyone's data encrypted. And then the requirement in those standards is that multi-factor authentication requires 2 types of identification, and we'll be working on that. Continuing on with security, I mentioned mobile hotspots will be encrypted. Next slide, please. And then I mentioned mobile device management. So under the CJIS recommendations or the regulations, there are 11 conditions that you have to follow. I just listed 4. So remote locking of devices, remote wiping of devices, and then detecting any time a phone is jailbroken, which means they've wiped the OS and put something else on the phone. So a tool will allow us to force upgrades. If you're on an older version of iOS, that's 6 or 7 versions old, with this tool, we'll be able to force that upgrade. And the reason you do that is it strengthens cybersecurity on that phone and that mobile device. And then, again, provide security awareness training. The fourth point is about AI. I believe the state has a policy. I think you're going to see every jurisdiction, county, city come out with an AI policy, and we need to do the same thing. We're aware that people are using ChatGPT and those tools on their personal phone and probably their home computers at home, but we need to determine the business need for the county, and then we need to make sure we design the infrastructure and policies to support the business need. It's going to require training, and we're going to need to leverage our current IT workforce. So in the budget line items, basically there's not a lot of change here. I do want to point out that in computer IT equipment, 2009, we've reduced that a bit. We do have 60 computers to upgrade in 2020. This should be 2026, shouldn't it? My apologies. Computer service 3003, there's no change. We have a data closet modernization that we need to do. It needs to be cleaned up. The wiring needs to be labeled. We need to do a better job of getting those things organized. Next slide. 3094, I've increased the meals and lodging because I expect my team to go to some training and not just what they see on YouTube or what they do from their desk. We're going to need to travel for a number of reasons, for AI, for cybersecurity. So I've increased the training budget also to $23,000. We need to improve technical training, and I mentioned Pluralsight, which Pluralsight is a well-known technical training platform. And I already mentioned this, cybersecurity advanced training and AI training. In IT, you're never done learning. Software support 3102, we've increased that to $600,000. There's a number of things that are be driving this. I mentioned mobile device manager, which will allow us to manage phones, PCs, mobile devices, make sure they're secure. We need to modernize Adobe because we're on 5 different versions of Adobe. We need to be looking at cybersecurity software, what's going to make us more secure, and that's a TBD because we don't know what we don't know. We want to improve remote access, so we want to be able to track remote access. We want to make sure we're compliant with HIPAA, and then we need audit capability so that if there's an instance where someone's been doing something improper, that we have the ability to go and see that. There's a thing called Devolution Server, and basically this is another, it's really a security tool, but it stores my team's login on servers. And so if someone besides my team can somehow get into a server, it'll be audited and it will be logged in this tool. Expected license costs, support costs to increase. Upgraded Microsoft license, whether we do on-prem like we currently are or go to the cloud, is going to increase. On the capital items, we have reduced this. We've made a significant investment in the infrastructure at the EOC, so we need less money than we in 2026 than we have in 2025. We do need some servers in our data center here to match the servers in the data center that we're putting in the EOC. And this is what will provide basically a replicated copy in the event a tornado hits this building. We'll be able to fell over and run from the EOC. I mentioned the circuit court audiovisual. It's not ADA compliant. The hardware is no longer supported. So we've got actually quotes from 2 vendors at $80,000 per courtroom. I know that sounds significant. It surprised me. We want to centralize the management of those courtrooms so that we can do that remotely instead of having to go up to every courtroom when something happens. I was asked to put that in the budget, and this will go a long ways to improving the AV in those courtrooms. We've got some switches that we need to improve backup performance, and then we put 2 new fleet vehicles in the capital budget to replace our aging, our 3 current vehicles. I don't think we need 3, so we put 2 new fleet vehicles in the budget with plans to trade those in. And that's all I have. I'm sure you've got questions.
Any questions?
Thanks,
No,
appreciate it.
appreciate the information,
All right.
sir. Item 9 is the sheriff's budget. Sheriff Cantrell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've submitted our budget to you. Hope you've had a chance to look at it. Obviously, each of the elected officials have constitutional mandates and certain things that they're required to do. I think the county jail and the sheriff's office, well, obviously, we know we're the biggest consumer of the taxpayer funds. That's not lost on us. We've tried to submit a budget we think that fulfills what we need to operate and to fulfill our mission. I've asked Major McConnell, who has been intimately involved in our budget, to go through these things with the increases in the line items that are perhaps you're interested in, and to discuss those things with you further. And then we'll be open for questions, both of us will. So, Major McConnell.
How y'all doing this evening? I appreciate y'all's time listening to me talk about this. We've talked about it in the past, so I'll try to be brief as far as my stuff goes, and if y'all have any questions, I'll be happy to answer the questions. First up, I believe, is going to be the sheriff's budget. I've got our, let's see here. Before we go down to the supplies, I'm just going to go kind of not line item by line item, but on the supplies overall. We're showing a 1.71% decrease by about 21,000 on the budget. And if you go over to other services and charges on that category, we do show a 12.5% increase, about $60,000. And on capital, we're showing about a 10% decrease, about 66 change. If you'll, as far as the individual line items, I'm going to kind of jump to it. On the personnel cost, we are asking for an additional court service position to help out with court services. Right now, we're covering 4 different buildings, and and plus Madison County, we're strapped pretty tight on that side for training purposes. We've started implementing the officers to go through like a TFTO, FTO program, so they're out on more training, getting a lot more education on that side. So we're needing someone to kind of fill in that. And plus, we're sending 2 down to Madison County, where we used to just send 1 over to Madison County. 1 to do the court security and 1 with obviously with a judge. So we're asking for an additional person for that. Part-time salaries, there's no change on that. Obviously, we have part-time employees that do stuff, so there's no change on that side of it. And that also goes the same justification as kind of with the detention side. Overtime, we do see a slight increase on that based on the step increase and with call-outs and stuff that we have. So some of the stuff that we do on our overtime side, U.S. Forestry, Lake Weddington, step is probably the 2 big ones that we do that we don't ever come back for a reappropriation for overtime, so that money just goes back into the general fund. You'll see sometimes that I'll come up and ask for a reappropriation for overtime, and that's usually for our special events that we do with Walmart, U of A, football games, basketball games, stuff like that. Usually we'll get that reappropriated back because I don't know what that cost is exactly, but we get paid exactly what we get. What the county's out, we get reimbursed on that side. So, but these other 2, I don't ever come in and try to get reimbursed on that side. So it just gets included in the budget side. Holiday incentive, there is a slight increase on the holiday incentive. And I calculated that based on last year's average with 5% step increase on the holiday incentive. And same thing on the jail side. On the, kind of like the breakdown, I submitted a form with line item justification differentials, general supplies, small equipment. And we'll go back small equipment because I have that request for a red dot optics for our patrol pistols. Slight increase on uniforms. We do show a 5% increase, but year-to-year cost is down than what we expected for 2025. And plus, now on patrol, we're fully staffed. So I do have a small increase on that for 2026. Internet connection, we do show an increase on that, and that's mainly because of the cloud storage. Moving stuff to some cloud storage because it's cheaper than putting a whole bunch of servers in your room and trying to maintain that. Dues and memberships goes into back up because I got cloud storage. So it's also, there's another on the dues memberships increasing our, like I said, the cloud storage, offender watch management system. We'll have to receive that cost where it was funded before. We'll have to increase that cost. So that will go into the dues and memberships. That's the two big increases for the dues and memberships. Training and education, we do have an increase on that of $15,000. We're lucky enough, hopefully, if we get enough candidates, that we're going to host a SPSC, which is a 11-week leadership program that we try to get our lieutenants, captains, and above in. That cost for that class is $4,800. Hopefully we'll be able to host it here, so we don't have to pay for room, boards, meals, and stuff like that. We've sent people, I know, to Kansas City, I think Kansas City and some other areas for that class. So if we're fortunate enough to get this class here next year, it'll be a good asset for the Sheriff's Department. On the software support, we do show an increase on that. That's going to be internet crimes against children. That was paid by the state in years past. It's no longer going to be paid by the state. We'll have to pay for that. That's going to be a tool that it's called Cellbrite. Also, it's a tool that our CID divisions use to investigate crimes against children. That cost is roughly about $18,500 a year that we'll have to incur. On the red dots, there is a, let me go back. On the small equipment, we're looking at a $60,000 increase on that side, and that's to replace the red dot optics and to replace aging guns that are pretty much at the end of the life that we bought over 10 years ago. Also, typically when a law enforcement officer has spent 20 years, 28 years or whatever and has retired, the sheriff at the time would present the weapon, and we've never replaced that one weapon back. So over the last 10 to 15 years, obviously officers have retired. Weapons have been awarded to that officer based on the state law, and it's to replace them as well. So that's the main cost of that. Do show a, let's see, nope. We're also asking in the capital line item, which is $20,000 for a new canine. We have 2 canines currently at the sheriff's office. One canine, Lennon, is towards the end of his service life. We're going to have to retire him at the end of the year, so we're looking at replacing him. He is a patrol dog. And it's, the total cost, it will be roughly about 23,000, and that's with the training and the meals and lodging that they'll have to go to. Asking for a new animal control vehicle. It's just time for the animal control vehicle to be replaced. And 8 Tahoes, which is also on the capital side. Do I have any questions on the sheriff's budget? I know I went through it pretty quick. And I also want to thank for the ones that emailed questions. I appreciate that. It helps me get them answers to you, so I hope them answers sufficed.
I don't see any questions, sir. Oh, thank you. J.P. Massengale.
So thank you for all the information. I just had one question on this holiday incentive.
So,
It's like a 55% increase. What,
so holiday, let me see what the increase, so last year they ended up receiving the step increases, so that was calculated in. So the way I figure that up is I take the average pay on the holiday officer, because not every officer will take a holiday incentive. So there's different ways, so they can take what we call a job code 14, which is an observed day. So holiday incentive is for all Citron personnel. So anybody that is law enforcement that is required to work. But like the courthouse, we have 15 officers up here. So the courthouse is a good example. So I budget in their holiday incentive, but they may decide to observe that day and just take a job code 14 like the civilians, which comes out of a different line item. So they'll take the job code 14, but I budget out I budget in case they decide to take a vacation day and they get the holiday incentive. Same thing with our CID division. If they don't have a case to work, they may just observe the day and go on a civil process and stuff like that. So it's all on that side of it is the holiday incentive.
okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, sir.
Next one. Work release? Is that the next one y'all have in line? That's the next one I have on my tabs. You good with work release? Or is there a different one I need to go to?
Sorry?
Or you want me to go to the work release, the next budget, or you want me, is there another one?
That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. No change really on the work release. There's a 3.4% increase on the work release, and that's just for the fuel, oil, and lubricants. Based on the year-over-year cost for 2026, we had to increase that on that side. And that may be due to the COVID mitigation, where we're running the generator a little bit more, that we have to move some fuel around, or the propane and stuff that we end up using on the smoker and stuff. Communications. No real change on the communication side. Does anybody have any questions on the communication budget?
I don't see any questions.
All right, maintenance. On the maintenance side, so we're showing a supplies on the supply category went down 1.2%, about 6,000. On other services and changes, it's down about 10.7, a little bit over 10%. Capital request is up. We'll touch on the capital line items that we're requesting. So on the COVID mitigation side, I've kind of broke this down as 2 separate lines. Or jump back on the capital request. So the generator, after we had that upgraded this year, they're recommending a new switch gear, which is the breaker for the generator. That breaker, I guess it's a pretty good sized breaker, runs about $18,000. So that goes into the capital line item. HVAC, so we do a rotation out on our HVAC systems, which the year-over-year cost is $175,000, and we've asked for it every year on the HVAC side. Improvements other than building side on the line item 4003. So last year we requested for handrails for the roof side, so they're wanting to complete the B pod and the Y, any areas that have a 20-foot elevation. LED exterior lights, the lights that we have outside need to be replaced and upgraded. The concrete block wall, so when you pull into our range side, we have upgraded, our gate was falling down, so we put a new post in there, put a new gate up there, but the range berm comes down at an angle. So we have a gate here and it comes down. So the washback and all that. So I think they're called ballers, them big concrete blocks. We'll want to stack some blocks up to bring that dirt even across, so keep the washback and you can drive in and out. The big request on the building improvements is panels for the range, sound reducing panels. I did submit some pretty intensive reading material on that through acoustics. So if you've been out on the range all day, your head just rings even with the earmuffs on. And we just want something to kind of dampen that down, because it's the plywood tops and concrete floors, and you get the berm going around it. So we wanted to put the panels in to reduce the compression and hearing loss. On the CMP, we've got an amount of about $474,000, so on the COVID mitigation project. So the property room, we're needing shelves for the new property room. So the security room has pretty much doubled in size, so they need an additional climate control device in there. Security cameras, to put cameras obviously in the new COVID mitigation side. In the new warehouse side, they're looking at shelving, a electronic pallet jack to move stuff around, and a deck leveler. So I guess where the deck meets the loading dock, they're needing to put a ramp in on that side. Do I have any questions on the jail maintenance budget?
JP Rhea Stafford.
Thank you, Chair. I did have a few questions. On the equipment that's going to be replaced, like the breakers, the rooftop HVAC units and things like that, are the old units going to be scrapped, like the old HVAC units? And if they are, what line item does that end up going into?
Well, if they end up being scrapped, they'll go into the unappropriated reserve of the jail budget.
Okay, all right. And then my other question is, looking at the COVID mitigation project, it looks like all in all, with the machinery and equipment requested, is kind of increasing the overall budget of this project by about $474,000, it looks like here. And I noticed on several of these that it mentions, due to earlier budget reductions or removed from the original bid. How do we know how many of these things were originally in the bid or removed from the original proposal and kind of moved over to here? Were all these things in the original?
From my understanding, none of them is in the current bid project, and it's needed things that we need to complete that project on that side.
Yeah, I get it that they're needed. I was just curious whether, how many of these things were things that have been taken out over the bid over time, because I know the bid got redone in order to sort of make it fit.
That I cannot. Okay. I don't know that answer. I mean, I can try to find it out and email the group.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, thank you.
And you're just talking about the COVID mitigation part? Okay. I'll see if I can get that answer to y'all.
Any other questions?
Jail operations?
Sure.
Oscar? No, I'm joking. I've been giving Oscar a hard time all day that he had to come up here. You're more than welcome to come up and keep me in line. So Oscar has been helping me out on the detention budget. He's new on the administration side, so he's been an asset to me, so I do appreciate that. So I'm gonna kind of do the same thing I did with the sheriff's operation. So on the supplies, we're looking at about 1.5% increase, 50,000. On the services, other services and charges, we're looking at about 4.7% increase, 150,000. And then capital's reduction of 80%, 540,000. So with that being said, we're asking for an additional officer for transport division. So they're, of course, like the prosecutor talked about earlier, I mean, they're staying busy with court and stuff like that, and transport and everything else. So we're asking for an additional officer for that. Benefits and everything at a corporal position is about 98,000. We are asking for 8 additional corporals. These are non-funded positions that we don't want to fund at this time, but we would like the opportunity to put these positions within our budget, and that's to cover the CRI, the current CRI building that we have. We have 8 officers in the loan down there, and if we ever get fully staffed, obviously we'd like to staff that with that side of it. Part-time salaries, we already talked about, no increase on that. Overtime, do show an increase of 50,000 on that, and that's kind of the same stuff that we talked about earlier. Holiday incentives, same thing. So we do have a decent increase with the small equipment, and that's going to be to outfit their optics on that side and replace the guns that's retired off of that side as well, and the guns that are non-serviceable that we need to take out of service. Training and education is a significant increase. We've promoted lieutenants over there, and we'd like to get several other lieutenants and potential captains and stuff like that into that class. That's $4,800 a piece while it's here in Washington County instead of sending them off somewhere. And the good thing about if we have them here, maybe they can do some side work on the side while they're here. So we have a significant increase on the software support. So we've been paying for a software that runs about $5,500 a year, or $55,000 a year, thank you. And that was typically paid out of our SCAP grant, and due to the grants being cut and stuff, we don't know we're gonna get that in 2026. So we need to move that over to the jail operations budget. They're asking for a transport van, and that's to replace the 2014 van and 1 Tahoe for the transport officer. Any questions on that?
Questions? J.P. Rios Stafford?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make sure I understood right. So there's going to be 8 more positions created because of the 8 that are moved over to the CRI? Is that right?
That's what we're requesting,
Yeah,
yes.
what's
But we're
being
not wanting a
requested.
budget at this time right now. So before we were running 30, 40 people down. Now
Yeah.
we're down in the 20s.
Okay.
So we're hoping to continue to fulfill staff. I know we have
Yeah.
some more people next week getting hired. So, I mean, it's just, hopefully we'll be able to keep people on staff and continue to increase our numbers, which hopefully bring down some overtime, bring down some other stuff. Officers can get some time off and stuff like that. So,
Right. Oh, yeah.
but if we get the 20-some people staffed, then we'd like to already have them positions and already start staffing them.
Add those, okay, got it,
Yes.
to cover those 8 positions that moved over to the CRI.
Yes.
Okay, and then I saw in the note that if that happened, that the overtime might come down because the way things are situated right now is causing an increase in overtime, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it always does increase overtime when
Yeah.
you're shorthanded.
Yeah,
Me personally, I mean, if we were fully staffed, I'd like to educate the officers better and try to get them that extra training that they may need and that we are unable to do because we got to pay them overtime just to work. Or we got to pay them overtime to get the minimum training. So, I mean, I'd like to say yes, it'd go down, but
yeah,
I'd like to educate them too.
okay. And then, you know, if the CRI expands, is there an estimate yet of how many more staff might be needed for
I do
that
not have
expansion?
any estimates for any expansion on the, any type of expansion as far as a cost analysis on that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
JP Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, we heard a lot. What's the total? What's the total increase for this, for 2026?
On jail operations,
The whole thing?
I don't have a total. I mean, I can kind of go over a total. So, I mean, you look at the jail operations budget. Just so happens I got something printed off. So operational side, we're talking operations. On the sheriff's budget, 0400, we're at a 1.2% decrease. I'm talking operational cost. So I'm not talking personnel.
Operational cost is down?
Yes, it's down about 28,000. Jail operations, operation cost is 4.7, about 341,000 down. That's not counting personnel. The big cause of that one is going to be the capital outlay, like I talked about. And I mean, it went down 500 and something thousand, I think. I mean, I can go back and. Yeah, the big one's the vehicle cost, 543,000 and some change went down. Overall, it went down 341,000. So we do have a slight increase if you take vehicles out, if you take capital out. But overall, from this year, it's down 441,000. Maintenance side, we got a 3.9% increase of 100,000 and some change.
Interesting. Thank you. I'm through.
Okay, thank you. JP Cover?
Thank you, Chair. You've probably already covered this, but I'm just not understanding it. You're saying you're adding 8 new corporal positions, but you're not asking for funding.
I'm not, so.
No?
So in 2025, I've learned something thanks to the comptroller. So when we didn't fund positions, and we don't do that sweep every quarter, when it comes time, if we fill the positions, I'm sure the money's already going to be there, like the ordinance coming up. I mean, if you look at the ordinance that's coming up for the sweep for the year, I mean, it's down tremendously for the ones that's been on the court in years past. Because we unfunded positions, but like on the patrol side, so we unfunded, I think, 6 positions. Don't quote me on this, but we have unfunded like 6 positions on patrol. And we haven't been able to fill them until just recently. But because of that backlog of unfunded money that was not, or the positions that was funded that wasn't filled, we now have enough to fulfill the 6 positions that we have. So I'm asking for the 8 additional positions not being funded at this time, because I believe in 2026, if and when we get time to fill them positions, we'll be able to use the money that we're not filling positions now at the beginning of 2026. So I think that will roll over to the end. So when it comes into the reappropriating that money on the personnel side, instead of having $1 million, it may be $200,000 in the jail budget. Does that make sense?
That
So I think I
helps.
confused myself.
That helps. I mean, and I appreciate your written explanations that you gave me, because I've been able to study them, and I appreciate that. But I still, I mean, if we're still 20 short, that still sounds like a lot. I mean, I know it's an improvement, but it still sounds like a lot. The other thing I have with the reference to jail maintenance and operation is I'd like to just mention the medical contract. How much is that for this year? Because I don't know that. Was it 2 point something?
The medical contract for 2025?
Yes.
I can get you that information. I do not have that information because where we look at our medical budget line item, medical comes out of there, but we also have psychs, wellness, stuff like that on the officers that we do that comes out of that line item. So I don't know the exact number, but I can get you that number.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to know that. Thank you.
Okay. And you're talking for the 2025 year?
Yes, and then, I mean, that's a big item. It's around 2.5 million, I think.
I want to say that's pretty close, but
just-
I don't have that exact number.
And I'd just like to see that contract bid out. I think that, I mean, nothing against Dr. Karras. If he's the best one, then let him bid on it and let it come and let him get the bid. But if we don't bid, then how do we know what's out there? How do we know that we're getting the best bang for our buck, what the taxpayers are paying for? And how do we know we can't get better contract conditions than what we have? So I just think that's important for such a large amount that we should be bidding that out, and I'd like to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll get you that number.
Other questions? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all. You all have a good night. I appreciate it.
The last up, Roads Department Superintendent Crowder.
You saved the best for last, didn't you?
Exactly. Let's try and figure out a good, thank you.
So, first, before I get started in this, I would like to say one thing is, I'd like to give honor to all the men and women at the road department. Their dedication to the citizens in the harsh environments, and should be noted that they do a great job. They make my job easy, and I appreciate every one of them. So, going into our budget, we've worked this, and we had some questions. I hope y'all received the answers to the questions that we answered. But overall, on our 1,000 budget, or our personnel side, we're at a, I put my glasses on so I can read. We're at a 3.87% increase. You'll see that in line item 1005, we increased our overtime by $50,000. As y'all probably were aware, it seems like Tornado Alley has moved into northwest Arkansas. So we had a lot of overtime from storms and stuff this year. So we're trying to anticipate not having an overage in that line item. But going down through the operational cost, we're actually at almost 0.5% less than our working budget for this year. We do have some changes that has recently been implemented, and I'd like to kind of go over some of those to answer some of the questions that we got. Let me pull up these questions. We look at the 3073, the leased machinery and equipment. We have an increase there of 42.92%. This is due to, we have, let me give you a little backstory on this. We have 13 road graders in our road maintenance program. Those graders are 5 years old. They're due, the lease is up on 12 or 11 of those graders next year in 2026. The other 2 remaining graders, the lease is up in January of 2027. So we went to bid this year for replacements of these graders. We've got bids that we were received, and the lease payments on these 13 graders, we will be leasing 13 new graders, and the lease payment on that is $463,000 and some change. $436,000 of that is also our mobile crusher that we have, and then we have our dump trucks that we've had under lease for be 3 years now. And we also have a $72,217 in additional lease payments, and let me explain what that is. So the vendor that we received the bids on, they're willing to change out all 13 graders at one time. To enter a lease program on 13 graders, we would have to purchase out the remaining lease months left on 5 of them. January, 8 graders go bye-bye. The lease is up, so either we purchase those graders with a $114,000 buyout and keep them, or we enter into a new lease. The option, I think every one of y'all have Comptroller Paul Sherman here. He handed out the sheet and has different options on it. Option number 2 is probably the best option to go with. Let me find it here in my paperwork. So we're looking at purchasing or leasing 9 670P tandem graders and 4 672 all-wheel drive graders. One of the graders that's the lease is coming, due on, is we just put a new motor in it. We spent $70,000 about 2 months ago putting a new motor in it. So we would like to keep that grader and put it in rotation as a floating, grader. That way, whenever, we have storms or something, we can, use that grader. Doesn't make sense in getting, selling it out or returning it. So we'd like to keep that. So the trade-in values of these graders are basically, the buyout, I should say, on these graders is basically $1.4 million. That's not in the budget because trading these graders in, we will not have to pay that 1.4. So that will be absorbed as a trade-in to the new graders. So the only cost to our budget this year will be the actual lease payments of $463,000. Currently, we're paying about $400,000 right now a year for the 13 graders that's under lease now that we'll be getting rid of. Under capital, you'll see that we reduced that by 77%. The $114,160 is the buyout on that 13th grader that we put the new motor in. So in order to enter this lease, it doesn't really affect our budget. We actually are less than 1% from what we were last year, and we will be upgrading our graders to 13 new graders on a 5-year lease with a guaranteed buyback at a set amount of money at the end of that lease. Let's kind of go. I have 4 line items that we went over. I explained 3073, line item 3102, software maintenance and agreement. That money was moved into that line item because it was paid out of other professional services, and with it being software, it just made more sense to move it into that. So we took the money out of other professional services. You see a reduction in that, and it was put in that. So it's really not an increase. It was just moving the money where it should be in the right line item. And that is for our work management software and our fleet management software. So we take pride in our work management. So when citizens can go to the website and submit a concern for a road, that's what handles that citizen's concern, and that's how we deploy our people out. We do also have a computer and IT 2009. That kind of reflects back to the software that we use. Supervisors out in the field have to have tablets in order to to communicate back and forth with the citizens and their concerns. And 2005 is a slight increase. That's food. We try to do quarterly safety briefings and safety meetings. And also with the extreme weather that the guys and girls are working in out there, we try to get, some, liquid IV and stuff to help stay with, hydration and stuff. So that's so we up that cost a little bit. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, clarification, we'll see if I can get this right.
Okay.
Option 1, bottom line is 1.488904 that we're gonna have to pay this year if we buy it out on option 1. And we're
Correct.
gonna need to transfer $1 million from our general to the roads to be able to do that.
That is correct.
Okay. Option 2 is lease 12, buy out 1.
We lease 13.
Sorry,
We will lease 13.
lease,
Yes, we'll be leasing 13.
okay.
I know it's, yes,
I guess I saw 12 here under option 2. Help me, what am I missing? It says 9 670 Ps and 4 672 Ps for 12.
13. So we'll be, yes. So option 2 is the, when we trade these in, we will not have to pay that 1.4 million. It'll be 1.3 that the vendor will be, and we will pay the 114,160 for the 13th grader. But
Okay.
the lease will be for 13 graders.
Bottom line, because the trading takes care of some of that 1.4 that we have to buy them out to get them traded in.
Yes,
Yes, okay, thank you.
yes,
And so really the outline is for this year, 463, and then 2 through 5 is 556 per year, I assume. That's what that meant. Is that true?
yes.
Okay.
The reason why it's cheaper this year is because the graders, we will take possession of the graders in February. So we only have 10 payments for
Okay,
this month.
cool.
I mean, for next year. And then the remaining will be the 556 for the remaining 4 years.
Okay. Any other questions for Superintendent Crowder? Oh, I'm sorry, J.P. Koger.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Chair, what about the fuel station that we heard mentioned earlier? Is that in here?
That will not come out of our budget. So, Comptroller.
We plan on doing that this year, so you're gonna see an ordinance come up. We do have we put out a bid. The bid came back at $665,000. We just didn't want to throw it on top of all of this tonight. But the way we plan on paying for that is to reappropriate money that we saved from property tax. So buildings and grounds had a certain amount. I think roads was like $50,000. Jail has some that would go towards it because the sheriff's department is also going to use the fuel cell, and there's one other department. So what we want to do is we want to reappropriate the money that we saved from the property tax to pay for the fuel station.
So that money's coming from the county general fund, no?
Yeah, it would be. I mean, but it's no additional appropriation. I mean, because we appropriated to like 1.2 million towards the property tax, and it ended up at 400,000. So
Property insurance.
yeah.
If you remember, we renegotiated our insurance contract.
That makes
for this
more
year.
sense.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
You're saying property tax.
Oh no, property insurance. Property
Okay,
insurance. Yeah.
okay.
Sorry about that. So when we
was about
when
to
we
say,
bid
is that
out our
legal?
property when we bid out our property insurance,
Okay,
the bid came back. Remember about 400,000 or 500,000, but we appropriated 1.2 million because that's what the premium was that year. So that was the power of the bid, just what you were talking about just a minute ago.
well, but when you said taxes, I was wondering if
oh
that
yeah,
was even
I
legal.
was
but,
misspeaking there. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So, Comptroller, that's coming to us this year, so there'll be no cost for that?
Correct.
26,
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we want to get started on it this
And
year.
although we're going to use money that's there, it's still going to come through to understand what those numbers are and
Yep.
where we're going with it.
Yep. And I actually prepared, just Rio staff, you requested a cost savings deal. So I did prepare a cost savings based on the gallons that we used in previous years and what we're paying per gallon. So I'll get that, email that out to all the justices, the cost savings, and then.
Okay, thank you. And has that been worked into all of these that you use fuel? Is that different fuel been worked into your budgets, or are you using your current number so you could get a savings off of that?
I could get a savings off of
Okay.
that, yes. I stayed flat with what we had this
That
year.
would be my expectation based on where we were at. I just
Yes.
wanted to confirm it.
No increase there.
Yeah, the one thing there is we will not be just dependent on one sole provider. So once we
Right.
own our own fuel station, we can
We
bid
can
out
shop
the
it
actual
around and
fuel.
get better
Yeah,
rates.
yeah.
Yep.
We'll lock
Got
that
it.
price in as well.
JP Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I noticed that it's Cat Motor up at the top on option 1, and it's John Deere on option 2. So are you getting bids from both companies?
Yes, we had sealed bids and we opened them a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, I believe it was.
So is there just 2 really to go with?
Yes, we only received 2 bids.
So do you feel like you're getting a good deal?
Yes. I think it's a no-win. It's it's an impact of over $1 million to the budget one way or the other. So with option 2, it's a lot better deal.
So we did a lot of chip and seals, so does that cut down how much we use on a road grader?
No. No, our road graders are for our, dirt road maintenance, these 13, so we
Right.
also,
But this previous year, we did a lot of chip and seal, didn't we?
yes, yes.
So would that not cut down how much we need on road graders?
No, sir, those are resurfaces. So we didn't take that many miles of road from dirt to hard surface,
Okay,
so.
all right. I thought
And
you
with
did.
the increased amount of traffic and population growth that we have, what a grader used to grade, and it would stay, a smooth dirt road for, till he got back around 6 weeks later. It's about half of that time, so, we need good graders to stay, grading our roads. So, and they're at the age now that we're having maintenance issues with them, so it's, if, 5-year life cycle, it's a hard life on a grader.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Superintendent.
Thank you,
Appreciate
sir.
it. Next, item 11 is an ordinance de-appropriating surplus amounts from full-time salary. So this was mentioned a little bit ago, to where we're, sweeping back. Based on our budget controls, requires surplus personal appropriations to be de-appropriated from full-time salaries each quarter and returned to unappropriated reserves. So we're sweeping back $1,127,500. Okay, I have a motion to send it to the full quorum court, due process recommendation by J.P. Ecke and a second by J.P. Dean. All, citizen comment. Yeah. This is just on the ordinance.
On the ordinance?
Yeah, the ordinance to sweep back
Oh, no, I'm not.
$1,127,000. The broad will be next. Thank you, ma'am. All right, seeing no citizen comment, we have a motion by J.P. Ecke to send it on to the quorum court, a second by J.P. Dean. All those in favor, aye? Aye. All those opposed? Now go on to the full quorum court. Last item is citizen comment.
I'm Wendy Finn, 2311 West Lawson Street in Fayetteville. I'm a registered nurse and I have a Master of Public Health. Boy, my voice got a whole sore sitting in there. Our taxpayer dollars are currently paying over $2 million a year for Caris Healthcare in our Washington County detention facilities, who received national attention for a lawsuit that was settled, in which Caris Healthcare allegedly prescribed ivermectin, an anti-parasitic medication not FDA approved for use with viruses, for non-consenting detained or incarcerated community members with COVID, and at much higher doses than what Caris Healthcare was prescribing to their consenting patients in their private practice. Not only did this quorum court renew the Caris Healthcare contract after that lawsuit, they approved it for twice the amount of money of the original contract to absorb the huge increase in the Caris liability insurance. It's the job of this quorum court to make fiscally responsible decisions about this contract, as well as ensuring adequate health care in the county population. Since the lawsuit and renewal of contract, Rob Caris has been quoted in the Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette saying he does not recommend any vaccinations at all. His social media posts regularly endorse sensationalized clickbait and undermine scientific findings and peer-reviewed research. Incarcerated individuals in our jails do not have the freedom to choose their own health care provider, and they're at our mercy for this decision. It is our responsibility to open the Washington County Detention Healthcare contract to bidding so that Washington County taxpayers can contract with a healthcare provider who understands science, is public health centered, and who does not put our incarcerated community member population and further our county population at an elevated risk for health. Please open up a bidding process with sufficient time for healthcare providers to compete for the Washington County Detention Healthcare contract that is due to be renewed in December. The last bidding period was only 7 days, and that's insufficient for doing proper research to provide a proper bid. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment.
Good afternoon. Kenneth Lovett, Fayetteville, Arkansas. I have some concerns about how the county is being operated. Some specific issues are the Planning Commission direction. Even though there were options, the county judge chose to disband the planning board to remove people he did not want on the board. Arkansas Code 14-14705 states, a person may be removed from the county board for cause by the county judge with confirmation by resolution of the quorum court. Written notification stating the causes for removal shall be provided to the board members prior to the date established for the quorum court consideration of removal, and the board members shall be afforded the opportunity to meet with the quorum court in their deliberation of removal. I'd like to understand why Mr. Joe Maynard was removed from the planning board by the county judge, actions only. Other issues lately have been the zoning issues and windmill possibilities in our rural areas of the county. The most dangerous people I've ever met generally believe they're good. They move through the world with a sense of self-assuredness, a confidence that can feel magnetic at first, drawing people in with charm, wit, and even a careful crafted vulnerability. They are masters of narrative, able to rewrite every story to suit their version of reality. Carefully omitted details that would cast them in a negative light, exaggerating facts to suit their perspective, and shifting blame so effortlessly that it almost feels like magic. Consequences, accountability, and responsibility seem to bounce off them as if they exist in a different moral universe, one where they are never wrong, never at fault, and always justified. In their minds, they never caused harm, never hurt anyone, and never betrayed trust. Yet somehow, everyone around them bears the weight of the damage, the confusion, the pain, the emotional fallout. Responsible for feelings and outcomes that aren't theirs to carry. They craft reality so convincingly that even those closest to them begin to question their own memories, their own sense of right and wrong, and sometimes even their own sanity. Their delusion shields them from empathy, insight, and growth, making it nearly impossible to reason with them or appeal to their conscience. They are, in every sense, untouchable in their self-created moral armor. That kind of delusion isn't just toxic, it's terrifying.
Time's up, sir. Thank you very much.
Sir. Thank you.
Citizen comment.
Hi, good evening. My name is Brett Schulte. I live at 3871 North Gully Road, also known as County Road 345. I'm here tonight to ask you all, as well as Mr. Crowder, to install a guardrail along the road. I don't know if any of you all have been out there, but Gully Road has several sharp bends, 90-degree angles. It also has really tempting straightaways that go into those. Yes, I'd like to thank JP Koger for her help with this and encouraging me to come tonight. My property is on the end of one of those straightaways that leads into a 90-degree curve, and since I bought that house in 2008, at least 6 cars have crashed through the fence. Fortunately, most of them have gone through the wooden section of the fence and not the concrete pillars that sit about every 12 feet. But this past winter, one of those vehicles missed the wooden part and hit the concrete, totaled the car. And the driver, just some 20-year-old kid, was lucky to sort of escape unharmed. But I'm concerned that this is that luck's going to run out on that, and I would like the county to protect the citizens by putting up a guardrail along that property there, and probably a few other places too, since there are so many bends in the road right there. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Citizen comment. Seeing no other, gentlemen, thank you for coming and presenting your budgets and providing us with the information. Appreciate your time very, very much. With that, we're adjourned.